Namaskar. Today we're going to look at the question, how do we transcend or how do we get rid of the ego? The first question that might come up for someone is that even a good thing? So the ego has a function. It enables us to take actions, take responsibility. But as long as we remain identified with the ego, it also creates boundaries on our consciousness. A strong ego boundary creates a feeling of separateness. And the goal of yoga is to transcend that feeling of separateness and have oneness with the divine. I remember a little phrase our master Sri Ananda Murti said, "Where I is, God is not. Where God is, I is not." So you can't have oneness, totality, completeness if you have a feeling of separateness between God and ego. So how do we get rid of this sense of ego? Our master gave a very, very beautiful, simple, and effective practice, almost shocking in its simplicity. And what he said was that at all times feel that one is being witnessed. Now we tend to place ourselves always in a sense of being the subject. I am thinking, watching, doing. We may for a moment be aware of somebody looking at me. We may or may not like it if the person is watching me with love and affection, with a smiling face, and then that might be a pleasant feeling. But if someone is secretly, spying on me, whether it be Google or some peeping Tom or something like that, then it's a very unpleasant feeling and creates a sense of kind of unpleasant duality. But what we're talking about here is having a sense of the proper order of things. So, for example, I have a pen, and it's the object. My eyes are the subject. My eyes, which see something, are the object of my mind. My mind is the subject. Behind my mind is my sense of self, and that is the subject, or the ego. And that's where we normally stop. But is that the complete picture? Right? We forget that behind everything, behind all egos, is that witnessing consciousness which affirms the existence of everything. It is that witnessship, that fundamental witnessship, which affirms the existence of this world. Nothing would exist without that. And yet, most of the time, the sense of subject stops here. We don't have the whole picture, and thus we feel cut off, thus we feel small and limited and confused and lost. So to transcend that, to return to that sense of totality, completeness, and eternalness, immortality, the simple step is to just add behind your sense of self that ultimate feeling that I am being witnessed. Now, if we put, in our human tendency to localize things, if we try to, localize that witnessing, so it's some bearded being in the sky watching me from above, then it will be intrusive, especially as I don't know this fellow and I don't like him watching me all the time. But it's not that kind of being witnessed. It is the witnessing, the impassive witnessing which sustains my existence. It is coming from, it is present eternally. It is watching and witnessing from all directions. It is a state, right? Like that stillness of the mirror, which simply reflects back what I am at this moment. It's not judging, thinking, watching, enjoying, or anything like that. It's just affirming my existence. So it's this ultimate reflecting mirror that affirms the existence of everything. And when I remember that feeling of being witnessed, I sense a greatness, a power, a presence that adds depth and beauty and comfort to what otherwise would be a frantic, small, desperate sense of, my tiny little self battling with these enormous forces in the world. So instead of that, I have this sense of this hugely stable, vast presence, which is supporting everything. And that gives a sense of ease. And it also dissolves those boundaries, because those boundaries exist when you feel you are the subject, you are alone. And when you remember that there's always a greater subject controlling everything, the importance of the ego is undermined. Now, the ego doesn't always like that. Certainly it will resist, certainly it will forget. But the effort, we can undermine that ego by remembering that presence. Some time back I heard something which I feel is somehow related to that. And I've also mentioned this before. A year or so ago, I participated in a guided meditation in which the person who was narrating, a wonderful Buddhist teacher, Jack Kornfield, gave the instruction: imagine that you are the container in which all things arise and disappear. So it has that quality of something steady, impassive, non-judgmental, which is witnessing and containing all the dramas that come and go, and is unaffected by them. There may be murders, there may be marriages. They are there for a moment, they are gone. The next scenes come and play themselves out, and that the container just contains everything. Without a container, none of these things could exist. And so when I have been practicing this sense of being witnessed, a question has arisen in my mind. Well, who are you looking at? The witness, What are you looking at? And I try to see what is there, and it's just this, flow of random thoughts that have no permanence. And is there anything permanent? Everything that is being looked at is, under change. So there is no permanent me, in a sense. So as one feels when you forget that, you identify with your thoughts, you identify with your feelings. I'm angry, right? And you feel that's who you are, or that's what you are. I'm sad, and you identify with that feeling of being sad. But when you take that thought of being witness, then that sadness, that happiness is just something that comes and goes, and you identify with it less. When there's a strong sense of some unchanging, comfortable, powerful presence there, it helps one to realize the fleeting nature of one's thoughts. And that, basically what is actually there, nothing permanent. Um, so that's very liberating. It might be a little bit scary if you've been strongly identified with your personality. Um, but when you feel that greater presence, that presence itself allows you the comfort and security, and the awe of that presence enables you to let go of these small identities that you would otherwise need as a sense of security. So, who are you looking at? So feel oneself being witnessed. Imagine oneself as the container of all things arising and disappearing. Be the vastness. Right? I used to be afraid of that, and I talked about that in an earlier video. But that vastness, when you remember that practice, it helps you realize that you are that vastness in which all things arise and disappear. So that's the practice. Very helpful, quite simple. It does take quite a few weeks, months, even years of practice to begin to catch it strongly and feel its power. But the spiritual journey is about transcending the small and stepping back into the witness, which is the ultimate only thing that exists. Namaskar. Have a great week.